Hi, Angel. How are you today?
How are you? It's nice to
I'm
have
doing
you
all
on
right.
there. I
Thank
know.
you. Thank you.
So I just wanted to have you hop on here because we actually work with a lot of the same like gods and goddesses. So I guess we'll just kind of
Right.
start talking and see where it goes from there.
Okay. Would you like some sort of formal introduction?
Go ahead. Go ahead and tell everybody about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
All right. My name is James. I've been a practicing sorcerer for about 20 years, and for about 15, I've been a Hellenic polytheist. That's about that.
So let's talk about that. Who are your patrons and matrons and stuff like that?
Well, oddly enough, for a Hellenic, I have a few deities that are outside the scope of
Hmm.
the Greeks, but not many. So my patron is Apollo, god of healing, light, music, plagues, oracles, prophecy, the arts, uh, all that. And my matron is Hecate. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft, magic, crossroads, dogs. She's considered to be a titan and/or older, depending on which mythology you get into, and feared generally by most of the gods. Zeus is afraid of her, etc., etc. But that's mythology. And then outside of that particular pantheon scope, I have Lilith. Lilith is we're married, spiritually speaking.
Good. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay.
So definitely, of course, I work with Apollos. Wow, I just gave him a nickname. His
Wow.
twin sister, yeah, twin sister, which actually inadvertently caused me to work with him. And a lot of my oracle stuff I got from him, and also a lot of my healing and all that as well. And then of course I work with Hecate and Azazel, which I spoke to with the Quinning. And that's pretty much it right now. Maybe Lucifer here and there, but haven't really been working with Lucifer lately. I've been more working with like the goddess.
I do occasional work with Hephaestus as
Mhm,
well. I'm a silversmith, so I
mhm,
I do work with the god of forges and crafting the like. I've currently got hanging up. I just did a few devotionals. I did a devotional to Artemis,
mhm,
Persephone, Hades, Athena, Demeter, most of your main Olympian deities.
mhm.
I have some type of devotional that I do. I've got a herm that I built out of river rock for Hermes, which is good. I have been recently looking a lot into theurgical concepts. Have we talked theurgy?
Don't think so. No, I don't think
So
so.
theurgy is really interesting. If you look at ceremonial magicians have like this caste system, high magic, low magic, so on and so forth. And a lot of what they do is theurgy. They're attempting to become so close to the gods that they become one of the gods. And then you have thaumaturgy, and thaumaturgy is your general using magic to affect life or reality around you. After having practiced it for a while, theurgy has some really interesting effects. It's not like magic of any other kind that I've messed with.
Yeah.
It's so different, doing more and more devotionals and whatnot. And a lot of it actually kind of reminds me of like the sacred magics of Abramelin the Mage.
Mhm.
If most people who get into the occult end up learning about Abramelin the Mage and the ritual process that you got to go through out in the desert for 6 months to a year, depending on which translation you follow, where they purify themselves and they attempt to continually purify and reconnect with angels and God in that particular system. And there's a lot of similarities, and I think there might have been some pull from the old theurgical works from the ancient Greeks and Romans and whatnot that went into that. But theurgy itself is just so wonderful. I started doing some theurgy with Apollo, and my ability to play music has skyrocketed. It's exponential. It's incredible.
Which makes sense. You should
So
probably mention that you are a musician too, so that helps a
right.
lot
I
with
play
you.
bass primarily. I can fiddle around on the
Mhm.
guitar a little bit. I can't really play guitar, and I can drum for about 10 seconds. I never really was much of a player. My father was a professional musician. He was really, really good at what he did. The guy was like a jukebox, and on any instrument you put in front of him, he was a jukebox. He could play it. He could play whatever. He knew everything. And getting in touch with Apollo deeper has allowed me a modicum of that. It's really interesting. I could pick up on it a little bit, but I didn't really truly understand the scales and modes and stuff like that. Just a little bit of theurgy. I'm not even into the deeper stuff yet. Just a little bit of the theurgy, and I have just seen insane. I've tested it, Okay, well, what if I don't pick up the instrument for 3 or 4 days? And you still get better. It's incredible.
Do you notice it affecting your band too? Or is it mainly just with you? Because I know sometimes there's like that trickle down effect when we're working with one deity or one god, and because we're working with them so much, or like for me, my ex work, they are still reaping the benefits of like my success. If that makes sense, because I was doing abundance and stuff like that for my personal life.
Right. So I think that there is just about always some type of, I don't know if it's trick. I feel it's like the way I see it in my head is this. If you see a ship moving at any speed through the water, that ship is cutting waves, and you see the waves ripple out from the prow of the ship cutting through the water. That's what it always looks like in my mind to me. So I'm cutting through the water towards a specific destination, which is that theurgical destination, and the waves ripple out. And people caught up in the waves have all kinds of experiences. Other stuff starts getting pulled towards you, kind of like at the back of the ship, there's a turbulence, and it pulls stuff behind it and whatnot. It's really, I have noticed it affecting other people. I did, and I wrote it up on a post in the forum, the Become a Living God forum. I wrote it up in a post on there. I titled it "For the Musicians," and it was a UPG experience that I had while doing theurgy with Apollo and playing music. And I hadn't told any of the band what I was doing. You know what I mean? They don't know. One of the guys is completely uninterested in religion or spirituality whatsoever, and the other guy is also pagan. He's a Norse pagan. So we get along, but I hadn't told any of them what I'm doing. It's none of their business if I'm doing theurgy.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the post up. I get lost in the music, and it just starts appearing to me like this crazy thing. And I'm still playing while this is going on. I don't know. I really don't know how I managed to do that. At one point in time, I looked down and saw my fingers moving and was like, who is doing it? Because it's not me. Just genuinely an out of this world experience. And when we got done, because it was so much fun, when we got done, I started laughing. And the other 2 guys started looking at me for a second like I was crazy, but then it became so infectious that they started laughing. And you can feel it, it's not just the fact that I'm laughing that's making them laugh. It's the energy that went through the room at that moment. It's just so high powered. And so I think that type of thing, because I'll argue it both ways. I'll devil's advocate myself. A really good sorcerer is in control of the emanations that they put out. A really good one. If you're a quality sorcerer, then the emanations that follow you around, you have a modicum of control. You hear people asking all the time, "Oh, well, since you do occult stuff, do people pick up on that vibe?" Well, no, they don't, because I don't want them to. It's none of their business. And because of that, I'm in control of my aura, I'm in control of my vibes, I'm in control of those things. That's the hallmark of the sorcerer, is control of the mind, body, and spirit. So most of the time I would say that it's not something that's out of your control. But when I started doing theurgy, I noticed it was beyond my control. I've gotten so close to a divine source through methodologies that I can't control that. That's beyond my grasp.
Which makes sense. And I think a lot of people forget too, like when you said be in control, that as practitioners, we rule our reality. So if you don't like how something's going in your life, do everything you can to change it. You know?
Well, it's your duty.
Yeah.
The Toltec shamans called it taking responsibility for being alive,
Yeah.
which is not something generally philosophically you could say that you need to take responsibility for. I didn't ask to be alive, so on and so forth. All those arguments exist. The problem is you're alive regardless. And because of that, you need to accept responsibility for it and to take that control into your own hands. That's just the best way. There's really, I mean, there's other ways to live, but if you're not taking responsibility for being alive, you're not really taking full control and you're not getting the full experience.
For sure.
That's what I would say. A lot of it passes people by. I see it all the time with other practitioners. They lack control.
Also, I think they lack patience too, because I see a lot of people when they're first starting out that they expect magic in general to be like Fantasia, a Disney movie, or like for me,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, or like psychic abilities. I never realized when I was younger that I was as psychic as I was because we were watching stuff like that TV show Ghost Whisperer and the different things where like the psychic people would see like full on, full body apparitions of people, and that just isn't how it is. Just having a knowing or like hearing a voice or something like that. That's all a type of psychic sense. Seeing a shadow, feeling something touch
Right.
you know? And so people never realized that. I was 14, not even 14 yet. I was turning 14 the following week. So my grandfather passed away the week before I turned 14. He lived with me and he was suffering from cancer. So it was just one of those things that it was just time. I had gone to school and I was walking home from school and I hit the corner of my house, and as loud as I'm talking to you, I heard Grandpa passed away. Well, I heard Grandpa died, but Grandpa passed away. And of course,
Mhm.
being a kid, I was like, no, I'm not gonna like, no, that's weird, right? And then I walk into the house and find out that at like 11:45 that morning, he did pass away. And I had no clue because this is back before cell phones.
Right, of course. Well, and here's the deal. People expect it to be like the movies, and that's
Yep,
problematic for our
yep,
craft,
yep,
but also not. The mysteries guard themselves. If
yep.
people were putting a lot of reality into these TV shows, the mysteries would guard them out. That's the
Yeah,
nature of the craft. But I think that a lot of people are just unaware of how many forms the gifts take. Don't
yep,
get me wrong. You say, okay, well, seeing full-bodied apparitions is not it's a thing. Some
yeah, it
people
is. Yep,
experience that, but that's not most people. That's
yeah,
just some people have the gift of clairvoyance. I'm clairsentient. I know people who are
mhm,
clairaudient, and there's a whole branch of the different gifts and the way they appear. I just think that for anybody who wants to get into this lifestyle, first of all, cancel the fact that it's not Harry Potter. You're
nope,
not going to be Harry Potter.
nope,
Although I do believe that at some point in time, maybe in ancient times, that type of magic did exist. And for whatever reason, it's just not like that anymore. Something was changed. Maybe the gods decided that was too much power. Whatever reason you want to look at it, but I really do think so because any story that you see, fantasy has been around forever. Tales of wizards, tales of warlocks and witches and whatnot, even before the great witch hunts, the Inquisition, so the casting out of pagans from the rest of society. Even before all of that, there were stories of wizards with great power and witches with great, so on and so forth. And all story has a root in truth. So I think that there may have been that level of power at one point in time. It just doesn't exist anymore. Or
believe
if
that
it
too.
does, nobody knows. And if they do, then they're not telling.
A theory on that, okay? So I believe at our creation and all that we were able to wield power, however, right? What I believe is there was a person that could write and there was a person that could not write. And the person that could not write was the more powerful in the like craft and the sorcery and all that, but the person that could write could write. So they kind of just wrote it out of our knowledge. You
I've had a
know?
similar theory. I've had an actual very similar theory that it came across my mind.
Mhm.
Imagine ancient civilizations, okay, well, if you can start a fire with your mind,
Yep.
that's a pretty useful skill until some guy figures out that you can carry around this little bitty, thing of kindling and then strike a rock on it. It becomes so much easier that our species stop developing
Yep.
the gifts, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And now they're so repressed into our DNA that, pulling them out to that level is nigh on impossible. I've had that thought. I had that same theory just about.
Yep. Yeah, because it's like, hey,
If I got to spend 3 hours a day training my mind for
yep,
pyrokinesis, or
yep,
I could have a big lighter.
exactly. Yep. Yep. Or like you and I got in a duel and I kicked or you kicked my butt because I'm the better gossip, the better writer, whatever. I'm gonna switch it around and make it so that your abilities are so bad that we need to like get rid of you, which this is what I think it was happening.
Right,
Get rid of you and get rid of anybody that knows what you can do. And now we're gonna
right.
go the way that I am. So I'm stronger in reading, writing, whatever. So that's how civilization is going to go until somebody comes and overthrows that, and so on and so
It's
forth.
always a constant evolution there. Yeah.
Yep.
I can see how that would be, and of course people have figured power, but I've read several papers that say that
Mhm.
there is a theory that
Mhm.
there was at one point in time a matriarchal society pre-history,
Yeah.
pre-recorded history.
Well,
And
yeah,
that
of course.
matriarchal society was, everybody wants to think it's the same thing as our patriarchal society with
Mhm.
women in charge. It was a completely different society. And these papers talk about how the priestesses ruled pretty much everything. Politics were limited. There wasn't a whole lot that went on. Lots of fertility rituals and rites, lots of healing, lots of stuff like that. It was all pretty much good vibes. And then come along power hungry individuals and they figure out how they can take the power away. And then that, it
We go
falls
that
like
way.
dominoes.
Yeah, yeah. And then that's what I think is crazy too, is I think there needs to be a balance. This is me being a Libra, obviously. Saying that, like there has to I think in
Yes.
the perfect like world, there's that perfect balance between male and female. And like, you know, right now we're more on the other side, but then are we gonna switch back or is it gonna go someplace else? Like it's so interesting to see how even like a couple people, whoever's the ones in power changes the world. You know?
And it's true, but I think a lot of that also is a perception issue, right? So, I mean, we can say, well, males and females are out of balance. Well, I have problems with that because everything has to remain in some type of balance. If it's
Yeah.
out of balance, it corrects itself. I don't think that we're ever truly out of balance. I think
Mhm.
that what it is that the perception is out of balance. Well, males see females as too strong. It's not that they are any stronger or any weaker. It's just that they see it that way. And so, okay, well, now we got to tear the females down. Well, now the females have been torn down and they see males as too strong.
And now we gotta tear the
So
males down. Yep.
so now we got to tear the males down, and it's polarity switching, right? So if you have an extreme in any polarity, it's a pendulum. If I pull a pendulum all the way back to one side, the
Yep.
first place it goes is to the opposite extreme.
Yep. Yep.
And that's how extremes perpetuate themselves, and I think that's a perception issue. And I learned a lot of that because of my study of sorcery and the occult. And there's a lot of perception necessary to wield spells. And you see it all the time in the forum. You see it all the time in all kinds of forums on sorcery, magic, even on Reddit. And I don't give Reddit much credit. Wow, inadvertent rhyme. Apollo's here. He's going to have me doing limericks next. Watch. Uh, Anyhow, I don't give them much credit, but there are some top-notch guys on there. You can tell when you run across somebody that's top-notch, and they say the same things. People are just, okay, well, I want to do this money spell. Okay, well, how do you think about money? Right? What is your perception of money? What do you ultimately view money as? Because you go off trying to do money spells, and you really think that money is a bad thing in your subconscious and your foreconscious, in the whole of your being, if you really think that that's a bad thing, well, when you do that money spell, the powers that be pick up on that, and that guy goes, oh, well, he thinks money's bad, and he's doing a money spell, so obviously we don't want to give him any money.
Keep doing it, and you keep canceling yourself out too.
Right,
One thing that I've noticed is when we do, because we're doing a group ritual right now,
right,
we
yeah.
just had a money spell literally manifest in less than 24 hours.
Less than
You know?
24 hours.
Yeah.
Slam.
That's the fastest I've seen that in one of those group rituals. Yeah.
And she got an insane promotion.
Mhm.
That was so cool. And that's something else that we should talk about, another perception thing. People will say, well, I did a money ritual and nothing happened. But they got a raise at work, or, they got some money was saved somewhere. That's a lot of it. People don't understand that when you save money from something, that adds up over a long time. So it's another perception thing.
Yeah.
But that was just so cool
That
watching that
was.
manifest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I took such a strange approach to that.
Mhm.
One of the other members is doing money magnets.
Mhm.
Somebody else was, I think it was you. What your spell was doing something pretty cool. You had some
Yeah.
flames coming out of your
To do
cauldron.
to get rid of the blockage. The
Right, right.
If you actually look at one of the pictures, it actually turned into a hammer to get rid of that.
That just makes me think of Hephaestus right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Because the
I
blockage was
took a
her
really weird
god.
approach to that too. I saw people took all kinds of crazy approaches. One of the guys did Reiki, which is really cool, to get the energies flowing properly. I
Yep.
chose to call on an old spell called the Sword of Discernment, which is a sword that sits in the Akashic records
Mhm.
that is for cutting through lies.
Mhm.
And I just had an intuition that there was more that could be done with it. You know what I mean? Like, well, if this sword cuts through lies, it does other things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Nothing is singular.
Mhm.
And we all hit it at the same time, and it was like, bang,
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, that's the quickest I've seen something. I mean, I've seen it manifest really fast. But that is the quickest where we do it for their day, and within 24 hours they're already like, "Oh, I got it." And I mean, that's just the beginning because we're removing the blockage. So it'd be really interesting
Oh,
to
yeah.
see how she does a year
What
from
else
now.
flows in?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just got a proof of purchase for the joint working that you and I did on a curse.
Okay.
Yeah, so my buddy sent me a video on Snapchat,
Mhm.
wide-eyed, freaking
Mhm.
out. He's an atheist.
Mhm.
To preface, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in any of it. He knows that I do. He supports, so on and so forth. Old buddy of mine. We're really good friends. And I told him, I said, look, this chick messed up. She poked me. I asked her, please, nicely, not to do that on more than one occasion. And then she continued to
Yeah.
try and make my life bad and make his life bad. And I said, that's
Yeah.
enough. I'm taking you out. You're getting the
Yeah.
curse. You're
Yeah.
getting the business.
Yeah.
He sent me a video today, wide eyed, freaking out, talking about 1,000 miles an hour
Mhm.
about how she lost her job, lost
Okay.
everything. They refused to pay her for several weeks worth of work.
Okay.
All kinds of
That's
stuff is going
awesome.
downhill so rapidly. And I just knew that, like, that's the tip of the
Yeah.
iceberg. Because
Yeah.
in between what I did and what you did,
Mhm.
I did some long-term curse working, the
Yeah.
type of stuff that pulls a thread here, pulls a thread
Yeah.
there. Yeah, and I could feel it. It was manifesting in some serious, absolute serious nonsense. So yeah, there's another one of our manifestations from
Yeah,
the spell work.
definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think it's amazing how quickly that's why I think maybe it got delayed for our group because this month is just hitting it. Now, I have a very crazy money spell, which is really like this is probably not really a warning, but like be careful like how your avenue is. Remember when I got in the car accident and
Right.
and I end up getting injured, I end up having to leave my job and stuff like that. Well, I had done
Uh-huh.
just a quick lump sum thing, right? So that lump sum of
Okay.
money was my 401k.
Okay. Now here's a good teachable
Yeah,
moment
yeah.
for
I
writing
mean,
into your spells. to
Mhm.
make sure that you're accounting for the ways that this thing could manifest. Magic takes the shortest route.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was using that as an example. For me, that's not a bad thing because I have this podcast. I'm writing the books. Want to start my shop.
Right.
So that just for me, it removed the blockage, which was my job, from it. But I am in good terms with my past job. But because I'm still kind of hurt, it's kind of like, well, I would have taken longer than just 3 weeks leave to recover because that happened in September.
Right.
I am just now getting back to where I can go back to work, But yeah, that's one of those things.
Right.
When you do it, make sure you put, well, for me, it didn't matter because I was actually, when I was doing that, I was stressing out doing the interviews and launching the podcast, which is my passion, going into Christmas season. So the universe just said, okay, well, we'll fix that for you. Here you go. Well, since then, I have now done that. I am working on my book. I am working on my shop. I also got to get into a group of wonderful women, which were pen paling. And also, I got a chance that I'm starting to teach magic to people too. So, all that, which is all my passion stuff, all that opened up, which
Congratulations.
yeah, yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. So that opened it up so that I am meeting women from all over the world that are like-minded, and also bringing back the art of handwritten letters, And I always wanted to
Right.
teach. As you know, I've always wanted to teach magic and stuff like that. So that's starting that path. It's starting to get me to not want to hide in the shadows anymore and to actually come out and talk because I always stay within my bubble.
Right.
I've never
Right.
gotten out of my bubble and be like, yes, I work with demons, or,
You know,
you know,
I've experienced that, and I think most people who get into deep magic
hmm
experience that. You see it with the veterans and whatnot on forums and whatnot, guys that have been doing magic for 35, 40 years. At some point in time, they got locked into, I'm going home. And I'm staying at home. I'm going to do some magic. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to watch a movie. And I'm going to go to bed, go to work, repeat. And I feel like it's like a rite of passage for some sorcerers because it allows you to go farther out. Now, when I broke out of my bubble and started going out and doing stuff, I started taking apprentices and doing that. I have one apprentice now, and I probably won't take any more unless I need to take somebody on as an apprentice because it's difficult to really truly apprentice someone through that.
no,
It's
absolutely.
it's so hard to teach these concepts that a lot of
Yeah.
times there just aren't words for. But I when I started breaking out and I started telling people like, yes, I work with demons, I work with angels, I work with gods, goddesses, dark gods, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. People get really weird about it at first, but I've noticed over time, just about anybody I run into now that notices the fact that I wear a tentacle or notices, I've got rings, stainless steel rings that have engraved sigils from the Key of Solomon, the lesser and greater keys, pentacles of Venus, so on and so forth. People notice those things sometimes and they start talking about it. But every time somebody has wanted to talk about this, where I've been out in a public setting or someplace, I always run into the people that are okay with it, the ones that have also gone through similar things. It's like almost a filtering thing. You know what I mean? Like, really cool. I've seen
Just
things magic that just blow my mind constantly. That 24-hour manifestation yesterday was just.
been 24 hours because I did mine about now yesterday. So it wasn't even 24 hours.
I did mine
Yeah.
about this time yesterday,
Yeah.
sometime about 9 o'clock or so.
Yep. Yep. God. It seems to be so much more with the gods than the goddesses. I wanted to talk about that because a lot of people don't realize that when you're working, especially with like the Greek, Hades, for example, is very much a god. If you are going to work with him, he wants to be worshipped. He wants the offerings and stuff like that. And I don't think people realize that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, so yeah, so due respect. Right.
Yeah.
It's a principle I know
Yeah.
referred to as due respect.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a divinity,
Yeah.
a piece of cosmic order or whatever representation that they are.
Mhm.
Hades is a pillar
Mhm.
in the universe. I mean, in a
Yeah.
big pillar. Death is
Yeah.
so necessary.
Yeah.
Even though he's not the one that does death, Hades just takes care of the dead.
Yeah.
Thanatos
Yeah.
is the god of death in
Yeah.
Greek. And you've got all your psychopomps, Hermes,
Mhm.
Hecate, so on and
Yeah.
so forth. One of the things I've noticed about Hades is a dark god
Mhm.
to his very bones, if
Yeah.
he has bones.
Yeah.
Hades is just so dark. Now, a lot of people won't be able to work with Hades just as a resonance issue. Some
Yeah.
people won't resonate with Hades. Some
No.
people won't resonate with Apollo, your lighter deities. But all these deities, every last one of them, has a duo side. You know what I mean? They're dualistic beings. They can be dark, they can be really light, they can be really dark, they can be in between. But Hades just lives as a dark god. He wants you to look at the shadow self. He wants you to understand the darkness in your own heart, the darkness in other people's hearts. He wants you to understand these really, really nasty concepts. But a lot of experience that I have with Hades is every time I try to give him an offering, he eats it up, but he doesn't care. Because my devotionals, I don't know exactly how to explain it. The way Hades comes to me when I come to him is like, I don't know, he's almost like something out of a TV show. You know, I get the image of the guy in the tailored silk suit, you know, and he's like on a throne, hanging out. Um, but he always has a very relaxed vibration to me. He's always very calm. I do not want to know what he would be like angry. That's terrifying. But he's always been very relaxed with me. Now, I've had other people, I'm like, oh, yeah, try working with Hades. Here's a step by step on how to work with the Greek gods. You make sure people know about miasma, to purify yourself ahead of time with working with the gods, to approach them with the proper epithets and the proper attitude of reverence and respect. And I've seen Hades just tear people down. And they came at him in all the right ways. You know what I mean? And there's just no telling with dark deities. There's not. Lilith loves me, as an aside. Lilith loves me. I don't understand it. She does. Okay, cool. I'm fine with that. Other people I've seen try to work with her, she has shredded with less effort than it takes to shred peg just for approaching. So that's also something that I always preach to students. Magic is dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Magic is dangerous.
I've never had an issue with Lilith either, but I've seen her like known people that I'm like, oh, just try Lilith for whatever. Especially when it comes to like some of the stuff that I do that I can't talk about because it's like protecting people. Go to Lilith. Like I wanted my halfway house, want to name it Lilith's place so that it always protects people, you know?
Right, right.
But I have seen people that she's absolutely destroyed, like spit out and chewed out. And same thing with Hades. I didn't know if he's just nicer to me because I'm so close to Persephone. But even then, I'm closer to Persephone's maiden. So I'm closer to Corey than Persephone, if that makes sense.
Right. The before Persephone version of herself.
Yeah.
That is one thing I was going to say about Hades. If you really want to get on Hades' good side, make Persephone happy. And Persephone can be weird. You know, she's a duo goddess. She is every bit, like half of her is springtime and the other half is death.
Yep.
And so she can be strange to approach at times. Because you approach Persephone sometimes and you get all the spring. Yay, flowers and happiness, and she wants you to learn about growing things and the magic that exists in pollen. And then the next day you get to her and she wants you to understand that necromancy is a good thing. And it's like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. That just went so left field. But if you make Persephone happy, and it's an issue of motivation too. So motivation has to be taken into account. If your motivation is, oh, I'm going to make Persephone happy so that Hades will like me, that will backfire. They know. They're not stupid. You know what I mean? They know if you're attempting to to pull some type of jig like that. But I like the idea of Persephone, and if you spend any time meditating on Hades and Persephone, you can tell there is some serious love there. You know,
Gosh, yes. Yep.
all the mythology about Hades picking her up and raping her and marrying her and then tricking her with pomegranate seeds. I don't buy it. And
Yeah.
there are other versions of the myth too where they elope, and that's what
Yeah.
made Demeter so mad. So that's a thing. But if you want to get in Hades' good books, try to get in Persephone's good books. Try to get in both their good books. They're very much a couple.
Oh,
If you call
absolutely.
Hades, it's likely that Persephone's there too.
Yep, yep. I actually, for the spring equinox, I put out a candle, because I adore her. I mean, I do work with her, and I need to. 2025, I'm working on necromancy, so they quit bopping me in the head. I have grave dirt that randomly came to me, so I'm taking it as a point, you know. But the cross thing, her candle, you know, his candle actually was away from it, made a bridge to her candle when she
Oh
was
yeah.
crossing back over for his
Oh yeah.
strength. Yep. Yep.
And it's enough to give you chills. And anybody who's done a successful evocation, well, I thought it's the same thing. You think you're ready for these experiences. You get into magic, you go, I want these experiences. I want to see the cool stuff. I want to do all of that. And then you get something like that happen, and it'll chill you. It will. It will chill you. You think you're ready until it happens. And it's always, every time I have apprentices, that's always the spot that I know where they'll quit, is when I teach them to the point that they can get a full evocation going.
Mhm.
And I always set them up with somebody simple, a demon that likes them or an angel that likes them. I don't use angels for the first evocation anymore because angels are just absolutely terrifying beings. They are warriors to their freaking core.
Just that they are loud, like loud, because that's actually I worked with angels first, you know,
Right,
and you
so did
don't
I. So did I.
understand. Well, yeah, did you ever get through like I got put in as a teenager into spiritual training? Like I remember,
Right.
you know, like in like a dojo almost with like a punching
Yes.
bag, you know, and
Yes.
I'm just like, okay, yeah. And I'm just like, my goodness, you know, but at the
My
same
first real
time,
acquaintance in the spirit
mhm,
world was the Archangel Michael, and I got the
yep.
same thing. He put me through the ring,
Mhm.
constantly put me through the ringer. And it was no holds barred. But when I finally got a successful evocation of an angel, an archangel at that,
Yeah.
um, it's terrifying. And so with students, I don't allow them to evoke an angel for their first time. You know what I mean? Use a demon, use a fae, use an elemental, whatever we can get you to use for a full evocation. We're not using angels. They're just too much.
Because I
That's
was
not to say that they're any more powerful or anything
no,
like
they're
that. They
loud. They're
just
just
they're
yeah.
they're so in your face,
Mhm.
and they're so otherworldly. They don't generally care to appear as humans. That's not their deal. You've got to write that into the evocation. Please appear like a human, because otherwise they show up in these. I see you laughing in these crazy ways.
For this. So yeah. Somebody showed up as a dolphin. I don't remember who showed up as a dolphin. It was one of the males. It was not Ariel, because she showed up as a female with a lion. Somebody showed up as a dolphin. I was like, why are you showing up as a dolphin of all the because my favorite animals, like my spirit animal, as you can see behind me, is an orca. So they're like, oh,
Right.
we're just trying to make it easier. And I'm like, I've been young and literally like pissed myself because the angel showed up. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I'm like,
Right.
why are you
Yes.
showing up as a dolphin? It's okay.
Yes.
They're very loud. They are very in your face. And I also
They're very
noticed,
bright. They're
yep,
very otherworldly.
yep. And the demons that are fallen angels are just as loud. If you ever
Yeah.
noticed it, you know,
Yeah.
Lucifer is
And which
bright.
in which I should preface this whole conversation I should have prefaced with I do work with angels and I do work with demons. And some
Yes.
people will have trouble reconciling that with the fact that I'm a Hellenic polytheist, or that other people who, practice other forms of paganism, Norse pagans, Babylonian pagans, so on and so. Okay, so do enough research.
Mm-hmm.
Angels predate all religion.
Yep.
do enough research, most of your demons come from Greek word daimon or daimones, depending, so on and so forth. So we're talking about spirits that aren't actually the labels. We say angel and we think of a particular classification or group of spirits, and that's helpful. But they are not Christian angels. Demons are not Christian demons or any other pantheon you want to look at them. So for people who might be listening and wondering how all these pieces fit together, they're just popular names for huge groups of spirits that what else are you going to call them? They've been called that for so long, they kind of just flow with it. It's like calling one of the Fae. You know what I mean? The Fae are the Fae. That's what they are. And the Fae exist too, That's that's just what that is. But yeah, I just thought about it. We should have spoken on that
Yeah,
for
because we
for
forget that.
polytheists.
Yeah, we forget too that people don't realize that it is like you can work with Michael and Lucifer at the exact same time. Like all
Right.
this fighting and stuff like that, that's not how it actually is with the spirits,
No, Michael and Lucifer are great friends.
Yeah.
Their sense of humor is so compatible. I remember when I found out the Archangel Michael's sense of humor. He loves physical comedy. I don't know what it is, and I don't know why, but he loves that shit. And not intentional physical comedy, but somewhat. If you're watching a video on YouTube and some guy's skating down a hill and then, just totally crashes his groin onto a rock or a tree or something like that, I can guarantee you the Archangel Michael thinks that's hilarious.
No, yeah, but that's the same thing as like some of the demons aren't even angels. Like they get stuck in thinking it's just that because they were demonized gods too. A lot of the
Right.
ancient gods have been demonized just because a new religion was taking over,
Right. Well, and it wasn't always common practice. Back in ancient times, synchronization was the practice. So synchronization would happen, or they would just pull in the gods. So the Greeks, for instance, it's thought that Aphrodite is not an original Greek deity. It's theorized that she was pulled from Crete or Cyprus or some other place and then adopted into the pantheon when the Greeks conquered. Because that's what you did back in the ancient pagan days is, we conquered this town, but this particular spot in the town gave us trouble. Let's find out why. Oh, it's because the god of harvests is protecting their fields. Well, we're going to take that guy with us when we leave. We're going to pay homage to them.
Yeah.
And for Greek polytheists specifically, there is always an altar that you build for the unknown gods. For ones that you don't know the name of, or you don't even know if they exist or not. You always have that altar there, and that's a prudence thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's prudent to just make sure I give these guys a little bit of worship just in case. But yeah, and so Astaroth is the most famous example of a demon that's not a demon. Astaroth is Ishtar from the ancient Babylonians, a goddess of love, fertility, sexuality, and war, which obviously go together.
I mean,
I always get this image in my head of her making love to people till they die.
possibly make love not war, make war then love. I mean,
Yeah,
you need
or make
both.
war with love.
Exactly.
Conquer our enemies through killing them with sex.
Exactly. Let's seduce them to death.
Yeah, we will seduce them until they die.
There's so many that are like that. Like you get like the most random, like there's this, and then something that doesn't go with it.
Right. Yes. But yeah, that's the cosmological views are a big thing in sorcery because any sorcerer worth his salt will tell you, I work with my model. My model is wrong. Like I work with the Hellenic Polytheism model. Right. My model is wrong. Somewhere, somehow, it's wrong. I know that through unverifiable personal gnosis, I know that my deities exist. I've had the signs. I've seen the omens. I've seen the real world effects. I've seen almost empirical data to support this. But at the same time, there's something wrong with my cosmological view. I don't have all the answers. And anybody who claims to is very, very.
Yeah, definitely. what was I gonna say? Something about
It's one
Apollo,
of
and then
those.
I completely forgot.
Apollo has been big lately. He's been all over the place.
Mhm.
And he was arguably the most revered deity of all time. He has received more reverence than any other deity that I can think of. And I've
Yeah.
done a little bit of research on this, not a lot, but Apollo is considered one of the most influential and revered deities of all time. The Vatican actually just released, maybe a month or two ago, the Vatican just released the fact that they have a statue of Apollo that they got reconstructed, and they're going to go put it in a museum in Vatican City. That's incredible. That's so totally against everything Catholics. You got Catholics that refurbished a statue of Apollo that's a couple thousand years old, and then they just put it right back out there into the world. Like, that goes to show you how strong Apollo really is.
And he's supposed to be the version of the Greeks, like his statues are supposed to be how the Greeks saw it as the perfect man.
Right. Yes.
Like,
Yes.
there you go, man. If you're trying to be the perfect man, there you go. And it's kind of crazy because it's not, he's lean muscle. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And
he's
he's got
not
some
like,
flab on him too.
yeah,
You
yep,
notice that his gut isn't. I mean, his stomach. His stomach is not a shredded ape.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
There's a little flab. He's got a little bit of flab right underneath the belly button there that,
yeah,
that most men get when they're older.
yeah. And
There's
Aphrodite
some
is,
realism to it.
yeah. If you ever seen a real, like, depiction of, like, Aphrodite, for some sample, she's very curvy. She is
Yeah,
very
she's got like
curvy.
a little bit of a belly to her
She
too. She's
does,
not
yeah.
flat stomach.
No,
She's got just a little
yeah,
poof, a little poof right
yep,
there.
yep,
She's very curvy, very especially the ones you see her where she's been painted naked in a
yeah,
in a clamshell.
yeah.
Those are generally,
She's got the
pretty good.
hips. Yep,
Oh yeah, she's got, but it's Aphrodite. I mean, she
yeah,
drifts sex.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yep. That's why I'm always like, built like a goddess. Yep. And then you show them a picture of Aphrodite, and like that's 90% of most women, especially once you go
Right,
through the motherhood. That's what she reminds me
right.
of. Is she's a mature, not a mature woman, but she's not like a child. She's not a girl. And then like when you
No,
see, yeah,
she's like perpetually a 20-year-old mother.
exactly. Yep.
That's 25-year-old mother.
Yeah, exactly. And even Artemis, like for her being so like fit, like you know what I'm saying, like the goddess of the hunt and stuff like that. She's
Right,
not
very
like,
athletic.
yeah, yep,
And a lot of that is the portrayal of the gods is there's a touch of human realism to it.
yep, yep,
I've heard it said that the gods should not be made with statues or painted with clothing because they're
yep,
perfect beings.
yep,
Now, to wit, when you hear mythology, and this is where most people get into their deities, some version of mythology. I call it the call of the old gods. You might have seen me talk about this on the forum. I call it the call of the old gods. And, if you've been obsessed with Egyptian mythology your whole life, there's a good chance that the Egyptian gods will take you on, or that they have been trying actively to bring you to that fold. I believe the name of that paganism is Kemet. I'm fairly sure, not entirely sure. I'm not an Egyptian pagan, but that's something that you'll see. So a lot of the starting points for people is the mythologies, TV shows, book, stuff like that. But when you hear about gods in myth, and when you see statues and paintings of, those are not accurate representations. Like Zeus raping like 150 women. Like, Zeus would have no need to do that as a deity. It doesn't even make sense.
yeah. And my gnosis with Hera is she doesn't hate him.
No, no.
This is my personal gnosis working with her. She doesn't hate him. I don't work with Zeus just because I don't feel like I'm worthy enough. But Hera literally threw a peacock at me one time to get my attention.
Well, I'll tell you something about Zeus. If you were sitting there going, I don't think I'm worthy enough to work with Zeus, he's probably eating that up. He's probably loving it. And he's
Yeah,
probably got a serious amount of respect for you for
yeah,
that attitude.
yeah,
He's very I don't want to say stern. He is stern, but he's not stern. He's very like strict
Goal.
dad vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
really
regal.
regal. Like he's a
Yeah.
king, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you come before Zeus, you know you've come before the king.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And Hera is very much the queen,
Yeah.
very much queenly. You know, it's not like she has this small bit part like she does in the mythology.
No. No.
I don't think that the myth does a lot of justice to the gods, but I think that's also part of the point. The mysteries guard themselves. Well, once again, the mysteries always guard themselves.
Christianity, we don't know much in Christianity about God. You know, we know that there were certain things, but then it's like when you look at it, how do you prove these things in the Bible, for example, actually happen? The Bible's mythology too. You know, those are stories passed down, you know. It's just that's the
Right.
reigning religion, so it's like that now. Whereas back in the day, the Greek mythology, their stories, their poems, their whatever was their religion, that was their Bible, you know. But you also have to speak to it in a way that man can understand, humans can understand, you know.
Well, yeah. And when you're dealing with beings that are so far beyond comprehension, that's what you get, is you get something of mythology. And it's interesting to note the differences in between those mythologies. If you see the mythologies of the Greeks, the Greek gods, Apollo is a wonderful guy. He's the god of healing. He's the god of archery and music, and you know, he's just wonderful. And then he chases chicks down and tries to rape them until they you know, beg to be turned into tree.
Yeah.
Like she begs a river god to turn her, like, help me, and he turns her into a tree. She's like, great, thanks. You know, and that type of thing is to give the aspect that those gods have some foibles. But if you look at Christian mythology, there are no foibles. You know what I mean? And especially to the average individual that doesn't have enough study behind him, they'll go, well, God's perfect in every way. Well, look at Isaiah. In Isaiah, he literally claims all evil as being his doing. He doesn't blame Satan. You know what I mean? He goes, all good and all bad in the universe is me. I did that.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is essentially saying, okay, if you're sad because your grandma died, well, I killed your grandma. Well, I'm perfect and I did it for a good reason. Well, don't you be mad at me for it. Meanwhile, the Greeks are like, yeah, I killed that guy because I can. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, I did that. You know, they actually own up to having any mortal foibles that they have. I like how the mythology, you know, doesn't place them in such a point that you can't reach them.
Yeah,
They're very reachable.
Talk about sibling rivalry. Look at how many times what Apollo and Artemis do to each other. Apollo talks Artemis, you know, he gets her to shoot Orion, and then in revenge, she shoots his wife in childbirth. You know,
right. And he's always stealing her group of followers. You know, he's got the group of women that dedicate themselves to be virgins to her. And he's always stealing one away and having sex with her so that she can't hang out with Artemis anymore. And then he dumps her by the wayside.
Yeah.
I mean, it's messed up, but hilarious.
Yeah.
Because no deity is actually acting in these ways. But it gives you enough humanity to the story to go, okay, I think I could actually reach out to Artemis. I could actually reach out to Apollo. I could actually, you know, try to reach out to these beings and try to understand them and get closer to them.
Well, this is my gnosis again too. He is super protective of her. You know,
you want no part of that.
Yeah, no, he is super protective of her. I've always been pulled to her. Always been pulled to her. But with that, because of her, you get him. You know?
Right. They're twins. They come as a pair.
Yeah, they're a pair. And so, like, because of me working with her is why I have a lot of my oracle abilities. You know, and that's why I always say it was given to me from Apollo himself, you know? And then also is like because he confirmed that Cassandra, that story was true, that he did make it so that she would see the truth, but it was a lie. Like, people saw it as a lie. And there was another
Well, they
one.
just wouldn't believe her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Poor
she was saying
Cassandra.
true, but they
Can
wouldn't
you
believe her.
imagine?
Yeah.
Oh,
And she,
that's just an incredible
yeah,
punishment to lay down on somebody.
yeah,
Okay, well, you have the ability of total foresight for all things. Enjoy that. By the way, no one will ever believe a word you say ever again.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
That
mean,
is a complete and utter punishment. That there's no loose ends in that. And Cassandra meets an awful death
yeah,
after the Trojan War. She meets an
yeah,
absolutely awful death.
yeah. Yeah, I hope she got her reward afterwards, because that was a little shady. And the other one that confirmed was Persephone really did, like, basically eliminate a possible consort. Because what people don't understand is Hades and Persephone are the only monogamous in that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
the rest of them are polyamorous.
polyamorous. Yep, yep,
And Hades actually had a girlfriend before
yep,
Persephone.
yep.
And she wanted back in Hades' good books after Hades and Persephone got married. And it is my understanding also that Persephone was just like, nope,
Nope.
we're gonna hit the nope button on that.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the myth it says that she clawed out her eyes, and I don't even remember her name, which I'll probably remember after talking. She didn't claw out
I
her
believe
eyes,
she
but
was a
she,
nymph.
yeah,
I
yeah,
believe she was a nymph. I never can remember her name. It's one of those ones that I never can remember the name to, like
no,
Poseidon's wife. I never
yeah,
can remember the name of Poseidon's wife. And most people don't even know that Poseidon has a wife.
yeah,
So I guess it's good on me that I know that he has a wife, but I
yeah.
never can remember her.
Well, and then, like, people don't know that Persephone is not Hades, or not Hades' name. Persephone is not Persephone's birth name. Her birth name
No.
was Tori. She chose
Yeah.
Persephone when she decided, I'm all in. This is what I'm gonna
Yes.
be, you know. But also, that's why I said I work more with the Corey side. When you get the spring maiden, you're still getting her, because it's not like her maiden disappeared. You're getting her
No.
Corey, you know. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
Persephone is the one that's like, you're doing necromancy. What's taking so long? I was actually watching. I was watching something. Oh, Hades Town during spring, like right after she crossed over, right? And I was just
Mm.
watching it, and it was when there was a part where she was leaving, you know, and then for some reason I was just in a mood, so I'm like bawling. I suddenly feel somebody like hug me, and she's like, I miss him already. And I was like, wow, that was one way to get you to come, you know. My house is always
Right.
white flowers in the springtime, you know, random white flowers. Where I walk, flowers will pop up like the next day. It's the craziest thing.
The
Yeah.
gods are just truly
Yeah.
insanely amazing beings.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a cliff
Hades and
too.
Persephone.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It was just happened to be a cliff. It must have been right at the equinox. So I probably just did a ritual for her to cross over. And
Uh-huh.
that's probably why I was crying, because it's a Broadway. I mean, it's not even based on anything serious, you know. And because in that movie, or in that play, they don't have the best relationship. And so she was basically like, are we going to try again next year? You know, and I'm just sitting there bawling, and all I feel is a hug, and I really do miss him. I was like, that makes it worse, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh
This
yeah.
is not happening right now. What do you do?
Great stuff out there for anybody who is willing to dive deep into this life. I've seen so many cool and crazy things, you know, and it might just be the amount of time and effort that I put into it. But when things happen, you know, out in the outside world, and they just come to you, it's just wonderful. There's nothing like doing magic. There's nothing
Yeah.
like it.
Nope,
There's
absolutely.
nothing like it. When you get your first real tap into that power, when you really first get that first access to that current flows, it is something else.
Yep. Yep. I do want to say something too. We definitely don't have anything against Greek mythology. At least I know I don't. I recommend,
Oh no.
if you're going to walk that path, Read everything you can find that's Greek mythology. Everything. Read
You'll
the
find
Iliad,
yourself getting
you
so
know.
close. You'll
Yep.
find yourself getting so close to the gods doing.
And those gods
And it,
will
it
come to
happens
you.
before you know it.
Yeah, and it's obsession. I know probably every single one of every single one of Artemis's myths. Because from
Right.
the moment that we start, because I live very close to a Greek town, so we literally had like Greek history. I took a college course on Greek mythology, got a straight A on
Oh,
it because
wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. So I do a lot
And
of
I have
my stuff
noticed
there.
that.
Yep.
And that's a great devotional too, for people who are always wondering, well, how do I give offerings? How do I do that?
Read the
Well, do I
myth.
leave these cookies? Do I leave these cookies sitting on my altar for the next 6 months? Please, for the love of the gods,
Don't
don't do that. Don't leave those cookies laying on the
no
altar. It's not necessary. When
no.
I do devotionals of food or wine, most of the time. Now, unless I've changed something for a very specific reason, most of the time I eat those
Yep.
or I drink them.
Yep.
And what you do is you offer those sensations to the deities or spirits, whatever you're working with. It doesn't matter. You offer those sensations. That's that ephemeral connection that you get there. That's also one of the arts that's lost is proper offering giving. So you can, as a devotional and as an offering, read mythology,
Yep.
and it doesn't have to be Homer. It doesn't have to be the Odyssey or the Iliad with poorly translated script. It is very boring to read because it's one giant poem that's 500 pages long. You don't have to do that. You don't have to read the Theurgy. You don't have to read all of Hesiod's stuff, but you can pick up Rick Riordan. You can pick up Percy Jackson and the Percy Jackson series. You can pick up stuff like that. I've
Schmovie.
read all
Yeah.
the Percy Jackson books as devotional, and there's blinders, and not on purpose either. Rick Riordan is not a pagan, but he
Yeah.
is and doesn't know it.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
my opinion on that. Guys like Rick Riordan, he wrote the entire Percy Jackson series. The guy became a pagan in doing so and didn't
Yeah.
even know.
Yep.
One of the best books that I can recommend for anybody that wants to get into reading mythology and stuff like that is a book called Thessaly. I'm gonna have to work on remembering the name of the author, but it's called Thessaly. Let's see here, and it
Link
was like
to
a
that
couple.
too.
Yeah, Thessaly. What a great book. Let's
Take
see here. Okay.
classes too. Take mythology classes.
Yes.
You
Okay. So
know.
Joe Walton, J.O. Walton, Joe Walton, she wrote a 3-book series called the Thessaly series. It's a book trilogy. You can buy the entire trilogy in one book, and it's 3 inches thick if you buy the big book that's got all three in it. Just wonderful. It centers on Athena wanting to do an experiment to create Plato's Republic, and she enlists Apollo to help her, and she gets some of these other gods. She's like, all right, we're going to create this little island out in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to pull people from all different versions of time. We're going to put them on this island. We're going to create Plato's Republic. It's just a wonderful read and full of all kinds of good stuff for those who want to practice theories.
Yeah. TV shows. I mean, obviously, you have to understand that movies and TV shows have all the liberties to it. But those old Hercules TV shows and
As
Xena,
a kid, those guys.
yeah, that's me too. Me too. That helps you kind of get in and get used to it. Because the thing with, especially, and I can only attest to the Greek gods, is they are more not perfect. They are not perfect, nor do they ever claim to be perfect beings. You know.
But they are perfect beings
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
in their own right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that's really hard to grasp. You go, well, they
Yeah.
are either are or aren't perfect. Well, we're not capable of comprehending how
They're
perfect they are,
yeah.
but they're not perfect in what we would consider perfect for the
No.
most part.
Yep. Yeah.
Especially when you've grown up around the number one religion being a monotheistic religion where the ultimate deity is so perfect you can't even question that perfection.
Yep. Yep. Well, I went Christian Zeus, so I mean, I
Hey,
mean,
look, my buddy Joe, a friend of mine,
mhm.
also a Hellenic polytheist, very dedicated, 30 years plus in Hellenic polytheism. He came to me one day and we had a conversation about, do you think that Zeus is the Christian God? he had this idea come to him, and I had that idea come to me, and I was
I've
going,
had that too.
huh, well, do just a little bit of research.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
Yahweh
yeah.
is one of the names that the Jews came up with, or didn't come up with, depending on how you want to do your research. Anyway, Yahweh is one of the names of God, supposedly,
Mhm.
which is a derivative of Jove. And Jove is a derivative of Jupiter.
Mhm.
And Jupiter is a derivative
Mhm.
of Zeus.
Zeus. Yep. Or what
So
about?
I'm thinking, is
Yeah,
Zeus playing one of his classic pranks on humanity? It's probably him and Prometheus at it.
it could be. Well, think about
Yeah,
Jesus
those two
Christ.
worlds playing each other.
Yep. Jesus Christ, 12 disciples. How many
Right, 12 Olympic.
Olympians? Yep. Yeah, I'm like, I've thought that too, you know? Yeah, there's a lot. And then if you like look at it, there's a lot of stories on,
All the similarities.
yeah, that,
Famously, hell is a Christian creation.
yeah,
The name is pulled from the Norse god, Hel,
yeah, yep,
who is the goddess of, well, I said God, she's a goddess. She's the
yeah,
goddess of the underworld.
yep.
So the Christians naturally named their underworld hell. Well, what are they going to fill their hell with? Lakes of fire. Well, that just happens to be the river Acheron
Yeah,
from Greek mythology.
yeah,
So you've got the river Acheron, you've got boiling sulfur fields, you've got all that. If you look at any of it, it's all pulled from other mythologies and then just made to be much worse than the ones that they pulled it from. Or it's Zeus playing a classic prank.
be. It could be. We wouldn't know. We won't know until we die.
I mean,
That's,
you don't
uh,
know until you know, but man, I
yeah,
hope that's the truth. Boy, that would be fun.
that would be hysterical. That would be really funny. Yeah, I remember
Can
because
you imagine the looks? Can you imagine the looks on these poor Christians' faces when they die and they're standing on the other side of the river Styx wondering what's going on?
I mean, there's angels that cross over to hell and heaven.
Oh
I
yeah, they
mean,
they do
that's
it,
Hecate.
every so often.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, that's like a whole nother conversation.
Well, Hecate is an entirely other conversation.
Yeah.
She was granted so much after the war, the Titanochemy. Dang it, I can't say that. The Titanochemy. After that war between the Titans and the Olympians, because of Hecate's place and her role in that war, Zeus gave her a little bit of all three realms. Said, you got full authority, do whatever you want in all three of these realms. You can control this, this, and this in each one of these realms. And, walk back and forth, do whatever you want to in those places. So crossroads are, while crossroads are liminal spaces and they are sacred to Hecate, they're also an allegory for her ability to cross through
Yep.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And she is an odd deity to work with. You never can tell how she's fit. She is also another very dark goddess. She is not always dark. She
Yeah.
doesn't exist that way like Hades does or like
Mhm.
some other deities do. But she is can be very dark. There's a reason
Yeah.
she carries a torch.
Yeah. Yeah. She, thinking about it, she's almost always been dark with me
Oh
working
yeah.
with.
Oh yeah.
It's just another one that's like necromancy. Like, I think 2025 is going to be the year. I'm saying it now. So now anybody listening can hold me to it too. I think 2025 is going to be when I'm actually working on the necromancy stuff.
I went through my necromancy phase,
Mhm.
and I just didn't like it. I didn't
Yeah.
like any part of it. It was not fun.
Yeah.
Mostly because I was put through the ringer by the deities and spirits that I was getting in contact with for necromancy.
It's
They
supposed
put
to
me through
be.
things,
Yeah. That's how you
and
grow. Your
yeah,
phone.
and I didn't like it at all. It was awful. It
Mhm.
was absolutely awful. All of a sudden I had people coming to me, going, well, I'd really like to talk to my dead uncle. He just died a week ago. Okay, well, then you got to give them the explanations of what necromancy is and how it works. And then they want to ask questions that they just do not want the answer to. And then you're obligated to give them those answers. That's just depressing. Nobody wants to hear that Great Aunt Martha really didn't like you. You're sad about Great Aunt Martha, and Great Aunt Martha thought you were just a POS. Like, that's not fun. That's not fun.
Or
And
they
it's
just didn't stay, they just crossed. They're like, yes, bye.
oh yeah, I've had that. Generally, it
That's
takes
a
about a week.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes about a week.
Yep.
Sometimes people hang out longer. Sometimes they don't hang out as long. But every so often, there's those people that hit the other side and they know where they're going.
Yeah. They're,
Gone.
yeah. They're
Sorcerers generally don't do that because sorcerers
gone.
will hang out for a little bit in case somebody needs some help, because you gain a lot of power once you die as a sorcerer. If
I'm
you've
gonna
been
be
practicing the arts for any amount
yeah.
of time, if you die on the other side, that's why when dealing with ghosts or exorcisms, blessing and cleansing houses and stuff like that, I run across one ghost of a witch, and they are just so problematic. They know what you're going to do. They know the spells that you're going to throw at them. They know the cleansing rituals that you're going to use, and they know how to work them. So they're very problematic.
On haunting and trolling people after I die. That is what I'm gonna do.
I thought about it. I probably will end up going to hang out with the dragon. It's
Mhm.
been a long time. Several past life regressions and other stuff that I've done. People are going to hear this too. They're going to dragons. Now he's talking about dragons. Yes, dragons.
Yeah.
Fun fact: dragon mythology has spread across every continent of the planet. Before there was communication between every ancient civilization has some type of dragon mythology.
Mhm.
And dragons are really cool. If you ever get a chance to do dragon magic, do dragon magic. That they're just the coolest creature. They're hyper intelligent. They're about 5 times as smart as the smartest man on earth, right off the get go.
They're knowledgeable too. They are old
Oh yeah,
souls.
just stores of wisdom. They protect cosmic secrets.
Mhm.
The things you can learn from dragons are just out of this world by their very nature.
It's like with fairies and stealing stuff. Like I literally have a thread occasionally called "This fairy stole my spoons" because that's true. I am missing a full book of stamps because what do you think is most valuable to me right now? Because I'm doing all the handwritten pen pal letters.
Right,
My
they see you
stamps.
playing with them.
Yeah, so they
Yeah,
took my stamps. I'm like, thanks, I
of
need
course they took
those.
your stats.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
need
thanks,
those.
guys. Now,
Those are
did you
for
forget to leave out the milk? You
they
must
have
have
a whole
forgotten to leave out the milk.
well, they have a whole altar. During the hurricanes, I brought all the statues in, which means I brought all of them in. And anybody that knows,
Oh, right.
they're very mischievous. And even the unseemlies, actually, years ago, had somebody do a ritual that actually put me in an unseemly court. And I always forget this. And I always try to figure out why when I go outside at night, they're all like running up to me. And I'm like, yeah, duh. I always forget about that
Yeah,
because I brought them all in and I left them in because we kept getting hit by first we got Helene, then we got Milton, then we were supposed to get something else. So I left them in, and so they just now left. But I would have conversations and be like, "I'm missing my spoons" because they are literally taking my spoons. You know,
yeah, the Fae are so notorious about theft,
they don't
even
mean
injury.
to. Yep.
Even injury. Well, we say that they don't mean to. We do not have the ability to really like. It's when you talk
I'm
to
not
somebody
protecting
from a
them.
different culture. If you talk to somebody who's lived in the jungles of Amazon their whole lives, they have an entirely different way of viewing, and they got an entirely different language. But now we're talking about an entirely different species that
Yeah.
lives in an entirely different plane of existence. They have their concepts are not the same as our
Yeah.
concepts. Stealing to them isn't stealing, it's pranker. Death to a lot of the Fae, especially some of the unseelie types of Fae, they think death is hilarious. They used to kill people in droves back in the day because it's funny to them. They don't have a concept of death. They're immortal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the unseelie, but I have an affinity towards dark deities, dark gods, dark goddesses. And I use the word dark, but it's loose for me.
Yeah.
It's just that particular vibe. Magic is neither good nor bad. Also for
Yep.
the listeners out there.
Yep.
For anybody
Yep.
who's listening to this and hearing me use concepts like light and dark, or hearing her or any of these other people that'll come on, magic is not black. Magic is not white. It is
No.
not good. It is not bad. It simply is. It's like gravity. Gravity is not good or bad. It's just gravity. It just does what it does. You love it right up until you fall down.
Yep. And to explain the unseelie to anybody that doesn't understand, if you ever go outside at night and you feel like something's rushing up on you, that's what it is. You're just not seeing them. You've somehow got into something that they're protecting. So if you get that moment, you step outside and you feel like something's rushing up on you, that's what it is. Now, unseelies can be, as you said, a little bit more dangerous, but that's what.
Yeah.
So when you get that uneasy feeling, listen to that. If you go somewhere and you feel like something's rushing up on you and you're not feeling like you should be there, turn around and leave. They're either telling you something or something's going on. So go with that
Well,
feeling.
they're trying to run you off.
Yeah, they're trying to run you off because you're too close to their area. Yep. But
Whatever it is that
respect
they have
Yep.
going on. The unseelie fae. In the fairy realms, you have several courts. It's not the proper way to talk about this, but I'll just talk
Yeah.
about it in regular terms.
Yeah.
So you have several courts. The unseelie fae and the seelie fae are generally the most well-known. So those will be the ones that I go over, even though there are the courts of the wild thorns and the courts of the white dove and so
Mhm.
on and so forth. But the seelie fae are generally like your happy, brighter, laughy, like pixie type fae
Yeah.
that you
Tinkerbell.
think of in your mind, like that's a Tinkerbell type, or like your elves that are jolly and merry and dancing all the time. That is seelie fae. Now, unseelie fae are like your goblins and your gremlins and your red caps, kinky punk, stuff like that. And red caps are most well known because they kill things and then they take their hat off and they dip it in the blood and they put the hat back on. Yay! I'm having fun now. The major difference in between the seelie and the unseelie court is the unseelie court is night. The seelie court is daytime/twilight. And the unseelie court has less of what you would call morals. Like, they don't have the same morals and ethics that they live by that the seelie court does. So you might run into something from the seelie court, and it would be like, oh, well, I'm going to steal your shoes because obviously I see that you use them every day and you like them, so I'm stealing them. Because that's hilarious. Now you don't have that thing. Whereas the unseelie court would be like, haha, I'm going to put a nail in your shoe because screw you.
On a rock because why
Yeah,
not? Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
hilarious to them.
Yep.
They don't experience things the same way we do, so they think it's hilarious. It is a huge cultural perception issue there, but they just don't have the same types of morals. They don't have the same types of values that the seelie court does, and the seelie court doesn't have the same types of values that your average human does either. And you experience that with any spiritual elementals. You really got to watch out working with elementals.
Okay.
They are what they are. All the way. Salamanders, fire elemental, they are fire. They're made of fire. It's what they do. So they're all heat, anger, and just flame. You start working with salamanders. I know a chick that got an infestation of salamanders in her house, and her house burned down. Why? Because they're salamanders and they're fire. That's what they do. There's no moral implication there. It's like, if I just leave a candle burning, underneath a curtain, it's going to catch fire.
Yep.
There's no
Matter
moral
when-
implication, neither
yeah.
good nor bad. It just is what it is.
Gonna happen.
So you got to watch for especially elementals, because they are what they are. Water elementals are all emotion and flow, and they don't like to be stopped for anything. And so they'll just roll right over you, or just may fill you up with all kinds of emotion that you can't.
Which is why weather magic is that's a whole nother topic on itself too. But no, you have a conversation, you're going to get hit by a hurricane. You're going to have a conversation with the hurricane about don't hit here. But I will, with a caution, when you're messing with stuff like that, you have to be okay with something happening somewhere else, because that's got to go somewhere. So, like,
Well,
I don't want,
that's yeah,
you
yeah,
have
that's
to be
all.
okay. Yeah, that's, or with magic in general. Sometimes
Mhm.
sometimes the quickest path is unfortunately somebody passing away. Or in my
Right, right.
case, my quickest path was just getting in a car accident, I don't believe in threefold at all.
The threefold law does it. If you talk to a very experienced Wiccan, they'll tell you that's not how the threefold law
Yeah.
operates.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't even make sense for the threefold law to operate like that, because every time I gave somebody a blessing, the return on it would be so much that no one would do anything besides give blessing.
Yeah.
But that's with magic, you make a good point. So, first of all, if you go to talk to a hurricane and be like, hey, Mr. Hurricane, spirits of the hurricane, please hit somewhere else. They're first and foremost going to tell you, we're a storm. We do what storms do, which means we're going to mess stuff up. Like, this is what we do. We're storms. We do storm stuff. And that sounds very, very bookish, like Stormlight Archives of me, but that's what they say. That's what goes down when you try to talk to a storm element.
I'm gonna go, I'm gone, you're right. Never mind. Let me just dissipate right here. It's more like, all right, you have to come ashore. Can you come to shore 6 miles north, 6 miles
Right, right.
west? Milton was coming hot and heavy. Like, he
Yeah.
was coming in as a category 5. And you saw the pictures of what happened around my neighborhood. Like,
Oh, yeah.
but it was one of those things like, all right, if you have to do it, spare me. But you also
Right.
you have to be okay with the fact that you're asking to be spared, that whatever was going to happen is going to go somewhere else,
You have to be okay with a certain amount of selfishness
Yep.
in magic.
Yep.
And I hate the use of the word selfish. It is not selfish to do for yourself.
Yep.
That is what the left hand path teaches primarily. The number one teaching of the left hand path is you have to be able to do for yourself, because at the end of the day, you are what matters to you.
Yep.
You are you, that you live this life. Nobody else lives your life. It's,
Yep.
well,
Yep.
it's like this, especially with me. Okay, no magic involved in this scenario. I'm working. I want a promotion. I'm going to work really hard, and I'm going to get all this evidence together that I am the best person for this promotion. And I'm going to submit that to my boss. If I get that promotion, that means that somebody else didn't get
Not.
that promotion. And that also means that they may not be able to feed their family as well as they would like to. They might be experiencing financial hardship. They really needed this promotion, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be okay with that in general. Just most people don't think of it. They don't ever consider, oh, I got the promotion. I'm so happy for me. They don't see Tom walking out the back door thinking about killing himself because he doesn't know how he's going to keep going on without that promotion. Oh, with magic, it's the same, but sometimes a little worse. If I go, okay, well, I'm going to do a spell to get $1 million and it kills grandma. Like that's a hard one to reconcile. But you can write that type of thing in. It just limits your magic.
Same.
Your example with the hurricane. Please don't hit me. Hit somebody else. Somebody else is going to get hit. If you're successful, you're not always going to be successful in magic either. That's something that people should know, is that it's not 100% game. And things manifest in ways that you would never have thought of. And some of it takes time. I've had spells that I forgot about for 2 or 3 years turn around and just all of a sudden just explode with all kinds of energy.
Because you finally forgot about it. That's another thing too. You can't lust for it. Love spells.
Right.
I think love spells are the ones that you see go sideways the most often. Because either people want it so badly, they're putting too much stuff together, or it's something where you want XYZ, but he doesn't want you, or she doesn't want you, or you want somebody that you don't know. How are they going to get to know you?
Right.
Or somebody that you hurt so badly that there is no way you would get them back, because you're still
Yeah. How are you going to reconcile that?
Yeah.
I think the main number one problem that people have with love spells, depending on the type of love spell, there's several categories of love spells. Okay,
Okay.
there's lust spells.
Yep.
There are love spells, which is like, okay, I want whoever to love. I want
Yep.
Sarah to love me.
Yep.
All right, okay, so I'm going to cast a spell to make Sarah love me. And then there are love spells that are general spells. So it's like, I want love, I desire love. I'm going to cast a spell to bring love into
Love
your life.
to me.
Those work perfect
The
just
best.
about every time. You see people that do those and they just get all kinds of love. And it's not in the ways that they expected, but it's in the ways that they needed, perhaps. It's not always about what you need type thing. It's just what made them most happy. Now, the problem that people have with the first few sets of love spells, lust spells, and targeted love spells is this. That's baneful magic. That's
Yep.
cursing.
Yep.
Cursing is not for beginners to
Nope.
start off with. There
Nope.
are too many things to keep in mind and too many things that have to be done in order to curse somebody, especially somebody who's a mundane individual.
Hang on one second.
Their
I want to.
mundane life is a shield.
Yep. Yeah, I want to do that. Love spells. This type of love spell is quote unquote black magic because
Yes.
you are tampering with somebody's will. This is why it can go sideways. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it is a curse. You are cursing somebody effectively. If you look at the most powerful curses out there, I want so and so to break his leg and have his testicles explode. That guy probably doesn't want that to happen.
No, I don't.
First off, so that's your first barrier. That guy probably doesn't want that to happen. I should hope that he doesn't want that to happen unless he's, just in that mood, whatever. So that's your first obstacle right there. Your second obstacle is every individual has shield. Third obstacle is every individual has some sort of protective spirit. And you never know what kind of ordinance of protective spirit that person can have. They can have a really small protective spirit, or they could have an entire powerhouse tank as their protective spirit. You never know. So you've got 3 shields right there that you've got to overcome. Then you've got to overcome the person's will. So, and
Just wants
free
that
will is an
person.
entire different. Yeah,
Yep.
free will is an entirely different subject. We'll talk about that at a different time. But for the purposes of this, I'm not talking about free will. I'm talking about will intent. Okay, so they may or may not want to have anything to do with love whatsoever. They've got all these shields built in. You've got to contend with their will. That is a lot to contend with for a beginner. And most often than not, what ends up happening is they throw that spell and it bounces back off the shields and hits them full in the face. So you become obsessed with your target. I just got to have them. I got to do more love magic. That's what I got to do. And so you keep throwing these love spells and they keep rebounding and hitting you. And then you can't realize the fact that they're working perfectly fine. You're thinking to yourself, oh, it's not working. They're not loving me. Oh, it's working fine. You just keep getting a rebound. It's working on you. It's not working on them. And then there are other ways that curses, it might subtract love from your life, so on and so on. But yes, love spells are curses effectively and by nature, and they're hard to do properly. If you want to do a love spell, do a general love spell. Bring love into your life. That's what I
Could be empty love. You could have them they love you, but it's not going to be a pure love that you're actually looking for. It's going to be this spell reflecting on it too. That's a side effect of it too. Let's say you get through all the wards, you get everything, it hits them, they come to you, and it could be empty. They're just going through the motions and stuff like that. Yep.
Well, one of the things to note there is love is an elemental force, and you really just can't tamper with it. You can try, but it's not there. The type of love that people want when they cast for these spells, which is generally not what they want. They want somebody. They want an idea more often than not. They want the idea of this person. They don't want the person itself, and then they want their affection. They don't want the love itself. They just want the affection and the obsession. Those are completely different things than love. So yeah, even if you hit, it's probably not going to be what you wanted. Although I have found a workaround. If you're like me and you refuse to date outside of the sorcerer community, you've probably dated somebody and really enjoyed doing rituals together, spells together, and stuff.
Mhm.
Working with Lilith, I had a thought come to me with a girlfriend, and the idea was, what if we both eliminate all of that and we cast a love spell on each other simultaneously, right? Now, you might think, well, what the hell? Well, let me tell you this. That is probably the best use for a love spell I've ever found in my entire life. We were already in love. We were already dating. We were already doing all of those things. Doing a spell like that, and I think this might be where they were intended to be used. On people who are already lovers. That quickening of that bond and that connection was so beautiful. It was so wonderful. Because there was no rebound, there wasn't anything to go wrong. All the love already existed. It wasn't a problem. It just turned into, bam, I super love you now.
Yeah.
And it's returned. That was really cool. I don't know if you've ever heard of anybody using it like that before. But that I had never heard of that. And it just came to me one day while I was working with Lilith. I'm like, well, we just love spells on each other. I'll take down my wards. You take down your wards for half a second. Bam. Wonderful.
Me and my partner one time did binding spells on each other without telling each other, which was kind of funny. Just like a love binding,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I'm like, have you ever used magic? And like, yeah, I did the binding. I'm like, oh, really? Me too. Because I have this, and I actually think I'm gonna write it out, but it has to be like you said, if you're actually in love, it's a time and eternity spell. So if it's somebody that you absolutely have been
Oh,
with for a while and you love them, it's so that when you pass on, you'll find each other again.
right,
So it
right. That's
has to
how
be
some
somebody.
twin flames are born.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully not twin flames, because that I hate that concept, because they can be that. To me, a twin flame is a reason that somebody can be abusive to somebody else. Like, you know what I'm
What
saying? Like, I've seen so many
I
people
do,
use
yes.
that.
Oh, we're twin flames now. We gotta this or we gotta that.
Yeah.
Well, you see people do that with anything and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I talk about twin flames, I'm talking about like the other half of your
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah.
Also,
Exactly.
another ancient Greek concept, the
Yep.
concept of the soulmate or the original twin flame,
Yep.
comes from the ancient Greeks.
Yeah.
When humans were first created, we were four-armed, four-legged, weird creatures, and our souls were so powerful. The gods were they didn't think that we should have that much power,
Yes. They cut
which
you.
is probably more than likely the best idea.
Yeah.
They would know better than.
Then we
Anyway,
would.
the
Yeah.
idea is that each one of those people was torn into two pieces, the masculine and the feminine side of their
This.
energies, and then so you have your twin flame, your
We're
your
gonna.
super soulmate type thing. That's what I was getting at, and
Yeah.
those relationships can be really toxic.
Yeah.
They can.
Yep.
The
Super
reason
tough.
being is that relationships are temples of initiation into specific types of learning. Every relationship. You learn specific things, and it's an initiatory temple that you go into when you form a relationship with anyone. If you get into a relationship with your twin flame, you cannot learn anymore. It's too perfect. The relationship that exists in between two true twin flames is so perfect that there's nothing more to be gained. So the relationship immediately turns toxic.
Yep. 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 I believe that. With the love spells too. One thing that I recommend when you're doing a general love spell is, if you're looking for somebody, write down your idea of the partner. I don't want to say perfect partner, because there's no such thing as perfect partner, but write down what you expect in a partner, so that when
Yep.
you're manifesting love, you're getting that. Or if not, you're going to get love, but you're going to turn up your nose to it because it's not what you're expecting. So put the constraints
Right.
of, like, I have a thing for blondes with blue eyes. Like, I manifested my perfect partner once, and I was like, what the heck? And then sometimes I'm like, what's wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're
I'm
really
sitting over here as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man questioning life now.
But you know what I'm saying? I gave
Yes,
birth to
yes,
a
I do.
blonde hair, blue eyed man because I love blondes with blue eyes so much. But you sit there and you put down, I want this, this, and this.
Yes,
You know?
exactly. I have that checklist. I've made that checklist 3 or 4 times in life. And the checklist, I say, and it's arguable that it's wrong to do this, but I say that you should get super detailed with that checklist. It's just as detailed as you can get. If you've got a particular piece of baggage that you carry around with you, write down, I want them to be okay with this.
Yeah.
If you want somebody who's compassionate, write down you want somebody who's compassionate and in what way they are compassionate. Do you want somebody that's beautiful? Write down your idea of what beauty is.
Yep.
Somebody who would match your specifications. Now, keep in mind you can get too specific if you go, well, I want, for me, I'm a straight male, so I go, okay, well, let's see here. I want a 5'9", 115-pound woman with C-cup breasts and so on and so forth. If I get too detailed, I will limit the magic. Obviously, there will be people that fit that description, but how many people fit that description? And plus all the other boxes that you check. So try to keep it specific, but not too specific.
Yeah. If you were in an abusive relationship last time, make sure you put, I don't want this person to have XYZ traits, so that you're not,
Right.
you know,
Pulling that in.
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Well, this has been a wonderful chat,
Absolutely has
Angel.
been.
I notice it's getting pretty late over there. We should probably cut this a bit
Absolutely.
short.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotta cut this a little short. I myself have to make an appearance.
Yep.
If you would ever like me back on the show, I would be more than happy to come back on the show, do another episode.
Absolutely. For sure. For sure.
I know some friends that may want to come
Mm,
on to the podcast too.
Definitely. Give them my phone number or my email, whichever. Have them contact me. I'm always open to talk to anybody, and I absolutely would love to have you on again. Have a great night.
I will send you my apprentice.
Okay. Okay.
He will love that.
Yeah, definitely.
He won't really love that, but he'll love it.
Yeah, well, you're saying, yeah, well, it would be good. How long has he been practicing? It'll be good practice for him, too.
Oh, about 2 years now.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
getting
great
close to 2 years.
to have somebody that's more on the newer side of it to share their experiences too. Because I notice as like practitioners, we tend to attract people that have the same mindset of us. So,
Mm.
I don't, it'd be nice to get new people, brand new people starting. Like, even if it's just like, well, what's your fears and stuff like that. I actually have a girl that she's not really an apprentice, but I'm kind of mentoring her that I want to get her on
Mhm.
here too, because she's like brand new, like only been practicing for like 3 months, brand new.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, like
that's
brand
fresh
new.
out the.
Yeah,
Fr-
brand new. Yeah, yeah, but definitely send your apprentice my way. Well, I guess this is it. Have a good night.
Angel, you have a nice one. I
Thank
hope to
you.
talk to you again soon.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.